Berg, you get it. We're both fucking repulsive.
And Nick, Shrapnel, you are too.
Yeah, Nick, you're not here, you ugly fuck.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about The Middle. The Middle went 215 episodes over 9 seasons on ABC. They were talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing September 30th, 2009. To get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, most of them, Berg, Gordo, and Joe. What's going on, guys? No Nick this week.
Goo Goo Gordo in the house.
Lick it. It will last longer.
Still trying to make that work, huh, Gordo?
It's not going to work.
I was thinking about this because I edit all the episodes that I hear, like, Jay intros and, like, Ferg is like, hey, Joe says his thing, and Nick goes, hey-o, Gordo doesn't have anything.
So as usual, you're trying to force something to work that won't work.
So wait, you're saying my thing is hey?
Yeah.
Ferg, you should see if you can copyright that before someone takes it from you.
Yeah. We'll have to get our legal team on that one. That'll be the next shirt on, go to our merch store. Hey, Berg.
With a little trademark thing. Hey, TM.
Book it.
We just concluded our, I think, 5th theme month in a row, so we're out of theme months for at least the next few weeks. We were gonna do a theme month for December. We decided to scrap it, so we actually have some kind of loose picks for once in a while. But this is not officially, but I'll say an unofficial Ferg pick. You pushed for this. As soon as we were like, oh, we're not gonna do the theme month, you're like, we gotta do the middle.
When was this?
I'll pull it up. It was a real conversation.
This is another one of those crazy shows that I sort of knew existed but had never seen, but then you see it's on for like 10 years and you're like, where the fuck was I when this show was on?
That's the thing. When you see like 215 episodes, you go, what?
If you know your show is going to be really similar to Malcolm in the Middle, don't name it The Middle.
Yeah, they probably should have called this show like Flyover State or something different. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the name doesn't help it.
Yeah, not to get into like anything about the show itself, but one thing that, like, by naming the show The Middle, the entirety of the time I've known this show, I've always thought of it as a knockoff Malcolm in the Middle.
Me
and
too.
It's not quite that, but it's always been in my head that way.
So when we meet Brick, I thought for a minute that was the youngest son from Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, the kid from Christmas with the Cranks? The greatest Christmas movie of the past 20 years?
He's basically the same character.
He is.
No, this character is a little more demented.
What is it in Malcolm in the Middle? Is it Dewey?
I think that sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, Dewey, yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm wrong. People can correct us, but
people love correcting us, so feel free to throw it out there.
I'm not afraid to be wrong.
My whole life has been wrong. I'm fine with it.
Did you guys watch any of The Middle? Like, I don't think any of you guys are probably completists.
This is my first time.
I've seen sporadic episodes.
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces here.
This was, yeah, something that, like, I don't ever think I watched it on at like prime time, but definitely saw reruns like as they aired, daytime syndication.
So with this show, this was one of those shows that made me angry because I thought they were ripping off Malcolm in the Middle. So I didn't watch it much out of spite. I'm like, fuck you, fake Malcolm in the Middle.
How dare you do this to Malcolm?
I will say, though, weirdly covering it this week, I had never seen this show before, but we've been catching up on the new season of Frasier.
Oh, I still have to watch that.
Patricia Heaton becomes like a recurring character.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I watched the first season. I didn't watch season 2 yet.
They did the smart thing that every streamer is supposed to do, where they put the whole season out at once, and they were like, here's all 12 episodes, have at it. So you don't have to wait week to week for a streaming show. So we're like 10 episodes
those
in.
days when every show did that.
That was so nice. And then you could just watch like movies and other stuff afterwards because you had time to kill. You weren't just like, oh, it's Tuesday, what did we miss?
We've talked about that before, though. I mean, there is something to the quality of shows has changed now that they pump out full seasons at once.
I think it just depends on the streamer and the content, personally.
Well, here's the thing. even the ones that air it weekly are still recording it all at once. They're just spacing out the air date. So it's still dealing with that same problem.
Yeah, the weekly release has nothing to do with quality. They're doing it so people don't sign up for something they want to see and then cancel right away.
But the old, not even the old, I'm saying the old days, but like even shows like, as far back as 10 years ago, were recording episodes or filming episodes that were coming out a week or two away from when they were actually recording them. So like there was so much time for the people in charge of the shows to like listen to the fans or like see what's working, what's not working and adapt. Oh, people really like this character. We should use more of them. They don't like this one. And now it's like all just, here it is. And if it has problems, if we get another season, we'll try to fix it.
The only shows that do that now are shows like Law & Order, who have always done it because they're so long, right? Like you can't film 22-hour long episodes ahead of time. So like they're always sort of pretty close to being filming when they're coming out. Kind of like how sitcoms used to be.
Kind of like how we are. We listen to the fans.
Yeah, I mean,
I think what you're trying to say is we all suffer from poor time management and busy real lives, so that we're always like one episode ahead of ourselves, nothing in the bank.
yeah, we suffer from this isn't our full-time job, unfortunately.
You all can make it a full-time job. Buy t-shirts.
Yeah, buy a t-shirt.
You'd have to buy a lot of t-shirts to make this all 5 of our full-time jobs, but please try it. I say I love you, our new overlords, and thank you, your t-shirt buying.
I will say, anytime anyone buys anything off our merch, which you can find at S1E1pod.com, we do super appreciate it, especially if you tag yourself in a picture, like wearing a shirt of ours. Like it's insanely flattering and it means the world to us.
And also, if there's other stuff we've done that you'd like to see a shirt of, if you're a fan and you've got an idea, let us know.
Or other ideas in general. We'll do other stuff. But, that was an easier way to get something out because people have been asking for a long time. But yeah, let it be known. Our margin on those is not great. But we still appreciate when you guys wear it. But yeah, I don't want to like venture off too far because, we got a lot of episode to cover. One thing I want to bring up beforehand, though. So this is the pilot, but there was an unaired pilot. I don't know if you guys had read up on that, where the original mom, Ricky Lake, and it is findable online.
Wow.
You can find almost the entire cast is different except Brick. Brick's like the only person who's the same in the original pilot, in the pilot that made it to air.
Now that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
I watched like 10 seconds out of curiosity. I just didn't have the time, but I think it was...
I didn't know you could see it. I'd like to see it.
I'm going to check that out later.
She's funny in King of Queens. She plays Doug's sister in King of Queens that had like a recurring character, and that would have probably overcrossed with this, maybe? No, maybe King of Queens just ended when this started.
Maybe. I have such a weird...
dick.
No, I don't have a weird dick.
Well, I mean, let's not be crazy.
No, I have a weird... what's that word? I don't perceive time that well. I have a bad perception of time.
Okay.
There you go.
That works, yeah. It was 3 words, but you got there. Yeah.
This whole timeline in my life is sort of a blur. So it could have came out 5 years ago. It could have came out 10 years ago, and it would still feel the same.
Well, with shows like this, unless I like hardcore binged that show and watched it live when it happened, I can't like really put a time to it because it wasn't like part of my life. If there was a show that I used to watch when I lived here or when I used to, hang out with so-and-so, like, yeah, I can kind of put it together with that. I used to always watch this before we had football practice. It's like, that's how you can gauge it. Otherwise, like, it's all so irrelevant.
We talk about it sometimes too. 2009 was 15 years ago. And like, me personally, I didn't have cable in 2009. We didn't have TV that had like a hookup. We just had like a DVD player.
10 years ago.
Did you just say 2009 was 10 years ago?
Math.
Oh, I thought he said 2015.
No, so 2009 was 15 years ago.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
But it's like we were busy, right? We were young 15 years ago. We were much younger than we are now and doing stuff, right? So like TV shows from this era, we weren't watching any week to week like CBS or ABC comedies, right? Like we were just out doing stuff or working or whatever. Also, I was probably drunk.
Also true.
I know I was. There's no probably there.
I mean, me and Ferg were going out a lot at that time too, but like at the appropriate times. Like,
no, I was a monster.
But to get into the show, we start off, title screen just says the middle, and it's kind of like this big open road. You see it's like cornfields and stuff like that. From there, you get like that pan, and you just see a woman Patricia Heaton, who plays Frankie Heck on the show, and she's like in the middle of the road in like a superhero costume, holding a phone up in the air, which because she has no service, which was like a really interesting first impression of the show.
I do like that it's in, and they touch on this in a second, but I love that it's like not on a coast. It's not in a big city. They're like, we're in Indiana, and is the only other show I can think of that was in Indiana, Erie, Indiana.
I started watching that on, I think HBO Max.
How does that hold up?
Not great. Not bad, though.
Well, we've gone over it a lot of times before. It's most shows try to do either the New York or LA thing, or if it's like supposed to be like not so East or West Coast because they have such a defined thing, they'll do like Midwest, but it'll be like, somewhere in Illinois or something like that.
There's that new show we've talked about before, too, that's like Somebody Somewhere that's in Kansas. And I think that makes it even more interesting, right? Because it's just in a place you don't see all the time, so you can kind of get lost in it.
So this is why the show's called The Middle, because it's just like in the middle of the country where like not much is going on.
I do think it's funny that they're like, they cut to when she's explaining it, the plane being in a flyover state, like, and if you look down, you'll see Indiana, and nobody does, because like, but to that point, though, do you ever look down at anything in a plane that isn't way more interesting? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, and now here's Chicago. You'd be like, it's lights. I'm in a fucking plane. Who cares? Like, unless they were like, here's the Grand Canyon. Are you really looking?
I have never been on a plane where the pilot has said, please look down.
Yeah, that's really not a thing.
Well, I mean, if you're going over something cool, like I'm sure if it was like flying
I think
into
Grand
Vegas
Canyon,
and the
they
lights
tell
are,
you.
it's
I
it's
think the
different,
Grand
but-
Canyon they do.
Vegas at nighttime, I'm sure.
But then you're flying pretty low.
Usually you're just above the clouds and you can look down at clouds under you, which is a cool sight.
I hate flying. I don't like to see below me. I think, know what I always think of though, when you're landing in a plane, I always find it very interesting how like you can start to see neighborhoods like so clearly that you're like, that street turns left there. And you're like, that doesn't seem right. I should be able to tell what that is while this thing goes 300 miles an hour on a downward arrow.
I always see people's pools. I'm like, hey, they got a pool. They got a pool. Nice pool.
Look at those poor people with an above ground pool.
I was never a fan of flying. And, to this day, when you start to like get to your destination, coming home or whatever, and you get to that point where you can start seeing individual cars and stuff is when I get like, okay, we're getting low. Like, that's when I'm starting to feel like a little calmer again. Cause I just never liked it.
I'm always 50-50 at that point. I'm either like, we're either going to land safely in a minute and a half or die in a fiery crash in a minute and a half. Cause this is the most dangerous time of the entire scenario.
So with that in mind, this whole intro is a lot of narration from Frankie's character. And, like we said before, she's explaining kind of like where they live in the area and how it's the heart of the heartland, proud home of Little Betty's snack cakes. I guess they couldn't get the copyright on that one.
But again, weird because I looked this up and Little Debbie is in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of weird that they went with such a straight parody like that where it wasn't the same area.
Because the polyurethane cow, that's a real thing in Indiana. So I assumed that like it must be, Little Debbie must be in Jasper, the town in Indiana they're riffing on, but nope.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Jasper is where this is like loosely based on, but they went with a different town. And like, why? Why not just say Jasper? I don't know. I guess like the pressure of having to match things up.
We looked up where Little Debbie is now. Maybe that's where it started.
I've been here the whole time. Not so little anymore.
Oh, Big Debbie. Hey, Big Debbie making her first appearance on the podcast.
I go by Deborah now.
Now they call me Diabetes Debbie.
Big Deborah lost her foot last year and she's not doing so great.
Never thought that sugar was going to come back to haunt me. Little Debbie grew up and lost her foot to diabetes.
Little Debbie was probably like a fucking war hero or something too, right? Like, we don't know the real story.
Thank you for your service, Debbie.
Like Little Debbie is like Debbie the Riveter. We don't know that there's like some huge Americana to it. We're just like, you fucking die.
How did S1E1 get canceled? They made fun of Little Debbie.
You made fun of war hero Deborah O'Houlihan.
People protesting with POW MIA flags in front of all our houses tomorrow. Like, we never recovered Deborah's body.
This is This is not the same, but it's reminding me of it. But I remember like not long ago, the first time the actual Wendy from Wendy's was on a commercial and my brain fucking melted out of my head. I'm like, that's Wendy? That is the Wendy?
Was that like right after Frank Thomas died, the superior Frank Thomas?
It was right around there.
Far less superior Frank Thomas, thank you. Dave Thomas, not Frank Thomas.
Oh, whoops. Frank Thomas sells dick pills.
Yeah, Frank Thomas right now is just hitting dingers in a park somewhere, fucking people's wives. He's like, what are you talking about me for?
Oh, he's hitting dingers, all right.
If you're playing the correct us bingo, save your comment. We know
It's funny though, because we've talked about both Frank Thomas and Dave Thomas so much that it's really become interchangeable in our lore.
The intro continues on and talking about how all of this started a couple weeks ago and how she's not an actual superhero, not unless, you're counting being a mom and all that. So you cut to her in the kitchen and she's tossing a frozen waffle in the microwave for Brick, the youngest son. He's like, it's not even fully cooked yet. And she's like, oh, just like lick it. It'll last longer. And like, oh, it was a pancake, right? And the way he licked it was like, he made this weird little face and I got super uncomfortable.
I mean, this kid does a great job of making you feel uncomfortable the entire time.
He's an uncomfortable kid.
He is.
No, I know, not for what you guys said. I know he has like a physical ailment, right? Like as the years went by, like he didn't really grow much, right? He kind of stayed.
Yeah, he stays awkward.
I think what Jay was trying to say is that he stays like slight.
But he stays smaller, but like his voice changes, but it's like he's still doing that character.
Yeah, I don't know what the actor has. I was trying to avoid using the word awkward to describe him. And
I was talking about the character.
I was talking about the actor.
Yeah, Ferg is right on the money on this one. You were just like, that's spaz over there.
Oh, that's a word that hasn't seen the light of day in a while.
You're not allowed to use that anymore.
Really?
No, who took it back? Ian Dury, Spasticus Asticus, because he had a number of like, ailments to him. So he like was like the British person being like, I'm just going to make it not be a bad thing. And they stopped using it.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for your service, Ian Dury. Thank you for your sex, your drugs, and your rock and roll.
Thank you, Mr. Atticus.
I can't pronounce what it is, but osteogenesis imperfecta, a condition involving a defect in collagen that causes fragile bones and short stature. He is 4'8".
I wonder if that's sort of the thing that like Chris Von Erich had, where he had the really fragile bones and like they could just break, like Mr. Glass type scenario.
I know it affected like in the later years of recording. I think he had a lot of issues where he like couldn't be filming as much.
I feel very bad for him. That's a tough thing to go through, man.
Yeah, moving on.
Well, yeah, I was looking up. I knew he had something wrong with him, and I was trying to.
Got a cool name at least. Atticus Shaffer.
Atticus is a cool name.
He's named after the lawyer in To Kill a Mockingbird.
I was gonna say like it has to be Atticus Finch, right? Like that has to be the.
Yeah, that's like legit. That's legit who he is named after.
Is that Gregory Peck in the movie? I think it's Gregory Peck.
I have to. It's been many years. Like most of these are like. There's so many classics that I need to rewatch because like I have zero memory of like movies I know I've seen but couldn't tell you a thing that happened in them.
Also, when Brick here, they introduced him. Does he pull a pile of wet hand towels out of his backpack? I couldn't like track what he pulls out.
I couldn't tell what was in his bag. Yeah, it was something wet.
I thought it was wet hand towels. It could have been bandanas or boxer shorts. I'm not quite sure. I mean, again, it wasn't the clearest cut of this, but I couldn't really gather what he was holding.
I did also like that Frankie was like, you ever like name your kid something cool, assuming that would just make them cool by default as they got older? And then you just see him licking his pancake and like pulling out weird shit.
Is Brick really cool though?
I think it's a cool name. If a guy punched you in the face at the bar and you're like, what was his name? Like, Brick. You'd be like, well, fuck, yeah, of course he punched me in the face. Like, that's like a wrestler from the 80s name.
Funny, they have Axel and Brick. Sue kind of got the shaft.
And then Sue. Yeah.
Yeah, then Sue.
Like, which is nothing wrong with the name, but it was just like, they're going with, did he get to name the boys? Is that what happened? Did like maybe. Mike get to name the boys and then.
But she should be like fucking Rocket Queen or something. You know what I mean? Like, she shouldn't have the name Sue.
And then speaking of Axel, he's walking in right around now. And she's telling us through the narration that like ever since he hit 15, he just hibernates in his room all day and he only comes out to like paw for food. And like he's just like hanging around in his underwear.
Do we gather that Axel is a Guns N' Roses reference because he would have been born in 94?
It's obviously a Beverly Hills Cop reference. Come on, Joe.
Oh, is he Axel Foley? That I would take that honestly, because 1994 era Guns N' Roses is kind of like a bummer to name your kid after. You know what I mean?
Chinese democracy is going to come out eventually, I promise.
It's going to be so good.
I'm still going to assume Guns N' Roses, though.
Definitely Guns N' Roses.
Soon after he comes in, like, that's when Frankie opens up, like, the things he got in the mail. Like, she's been waiting for her new license to come in. You know, you see her open up and give it a look, and the photo is, like, fucking rough.
Nobody looks good in their license photo, though, right?
No.
Speak for yourself.
I will say he had to get it changed, but a friend of mine, Dan, who I know Gordo knows as well, one day he went to get his license renewed, and he just, like, went by the theory of as long as you keep up what you're doing and you're serious, they can't say anything about it. So he, like, put makeup on, like he had a crazy black eye, and just made, like, a crazy face. So they, like, took his picture like that was normal. So for, like, 8 years, his license just, like, fucking insane. I was like, the idea to even think of that and go through with it is so fucking perfect.
Meanwhile, they make me take my glasses off.
Every time they do that, like, but I need these, I can't see. You know how many times I've been buying beer before and they look at you all weird and you're like, is it because I don't have glasses on? I don't know why they make you take them off.
Meanwhile, my license, which also states that I need to have glasses on at all times. Like, so.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
I always wonder too, like, when you take that first license test, if you just wear contacts, they wouldn't even know, right? You would just take the eye exam with your contacts in.
I mean, you could just lie, yeah, because they ask you. It's not like there's not like a polygraph test. If you're like, no, I don't need them, they're like, all right, fine.
Well, if you remember the first one you took, you had to do like an eye exam.
Yeah, but it's just reading the line.
Yeah, but you can't do that without your glasses on. But if you have contacts, like, that's how they know you have your glasses. You wouldn't be able to read it.
As somebody who had to be at the RMV recently, they make you do it after a certain age too, because there was just an old guy who was very mad, being like, I can fucking read it. I'm just like, this is so uncomfortable just sitting there.
They make you take the eye exam without your glasses?
No, he was an old guy, and they were like making sure he could still get his license, even though he had glasses on, and they were like making him do the eye exam to make sure he still could see enough, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think he could. I didn't feel comfortable when he walked out of there being like, that guy's driving either way, so just be fucking careful.
I'll say this too. I mean, her picture might have looked rough, but no license picture looks quite as remarkable as my dad's old license photo, which I showed you guys in the past, some of you. I'll try to pull it up. I have it saved somewhere. I'll try to put it on our stories if I can remember.
He looks like somebody jumped out right as they were taking the picture and scared him.
It's truly remarkable. It really is. Hold on, I actually think I got the photo right here. I'm going to send it to you guys in our group chat because I want you guys to live react. This is and I'll try to put this in the story, but this is my dad's old license photo. Legit photo. It's like he didn't know it was coming. Like, I don't understand why he looks so shocked.
Is he mid-sneeze? Like,
I can't understand
it.
How did his one eye get bigger than the
I don't know.
It's like somebody just told him exactly the time and day he was going to die and then went, smile. He's like, oh my God.
The cameraman has the lemon in his mouth like in The Godfather.
The cameraman was Marlon Brando. Not Marlon Brando. It's the Mafia movie version of it. It's Lloyd Bridges.
He was sitting down taking his photo. And right before the guy goes, oh my God, they hit the second tower. He goes, what?
No! Oh my God, a missile hit the Pentagon.
Well, anyways.
I'll let that gestate for a second.
So to go back, Frankie's looking at her license photo and she's like, when did this happen? She's like, look at my license from like 7 years ago. And like they show them side by side. You see, like, obviously, like the one from 7 years ago is a much nicer photo of her. And like this one here is like really fucking brutal. And that's when like her husband walks up, Mike, and he's like, well, back then you were all young and shiny and wondering what your life was going to be. And now you know. And that's Mike, who's played by Neil Flynn, who you know is like the janitor from Scrubs and stuff like that.
And he's playing the character here that he was born to play.
Yes, yeah. He's himself.
I feel like there's so many things he said. Like he's not like a bad dude in this episode at all. His character's not a bad dude, but he says so many things that he shouldn't be able to get away with saying to his wife, where I'm like, ooh, you really fucking tested that one.
But they pay it off at the end.
Yeah, but so many shows do that. Like, oh, say something sweet at the end and it makes up for all the shitty things you said over the last half hour.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gordo, you are also married. Could you talk to your wife this way? I feel like I couldn't without there being a problem.
Nope.
I mean, we'll get into him. There's worse things he says.
Yeah, this is light for him.
Yeah, I mean, there would be problems.
But all that stuff leads up to a nice moment near the middle, which, hey, show title, but near the middle of the episode when the stage part, which we'll get to, but I'm like, oh, he's a good dude.
Dude, that part made me cringe so much.
We'll get there.
We'll get to it, yeah. I will say this, though. One of those things they do where they take an attractive woman, they're like, let's make her not look attractive, or whatever. You're like, and part of it's like, it's hard to take that stuff seriously when you're like, she looks like the, God, who was it who had the fucking crazy DUI photo when he got arrested around this time?
Mel Gibson?
He had one too, but it was worse. It was,
Nick Nolte?
Nick Nolte. She looks like Nick Nolte's mugshot in this right now, which is like crazy. Also, I'm going to go on a limb here. She's in the new season of Frasier, as mentioned earlier. She looks better now than she did then. She looks great.
You know, to go into the other things that Mike says to her that are kind of shitty, was like, all of like 30 seconds later, you see them like in another room. And she's just kind of reiterating what he said earlier and just saying, hey, like, Mike, has it ever bummed you out that I'm not young and shiny anymore? And he goes, yeah, sure. It's a huge bummer, but what are you going to do? You go like, whoa.
It's tough because we're watching a pilot. We don't know if this is their relationship joking back and forth, and he's like
how they are.
Yeah.
Or if like, wow, he's a dick. Like,
I think you get enough that like they fuck with each other though, and
sure, but I think like, you know, we've heard, you know, these types of things from different women throughout our lives, and like usually in those moments, like, you know, they're being a little vulnerable and like not feeling great about themselves. So to be like, yeah, it's a huge fucking bummer that you don't look as good as you used to. Like, that's such a weird thing to have to say.
I'll say this: I'll take this disheveled version of her over short-haired Deborah anytime.
Deborah, you shouldn't have got that haircut.
Deborah.
But I will say this though, we're also a lot of like in real life, all of us are like very self-hating. We're like, we also know that we're all chuds. We're like, we would never say something like that because we're like,
you can call yourself a chud. You don't have to call the rest of us chuds.
okay, well, as a chud who may be near around other chuds, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't say that shit because you're like, I don't want her to be like, ooh.
Ferg was walking around feeling good about himself a minute ago. And then
I was at an all-time high today, and Joe just brought me back.
Listen, my wife knows I'm a chud. She knows. I'm a chud monster.
We're all cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Ferg, you get it. We're both fucking repulsive.
Hey, I said all four of us. I'm not singling out Ferg. And Nick, Shrapnel, you are too.
Yeah, Nick, you're not here, you ugly fuck.
Nick just catches strays at home on Spotify.
That's the trailer. It's just Ferg when you ugly fuck.
Nick just woke up like when Screwface gets cursed and marked of death.
Right around here is where we meet Soothe, who's the middle child. We're being told she's been going through a bit of an awkward stage for the past 13 years. And you see her like walking up and telling her mom how the dryer ate her leg warmers again. Frankie's like, I told you not to put wet things in the dryer anymore.
I mean, though, we've all had one of those dryers before in their lives, right?
This was me feeling like, don't get too Malcolm in the Middle-y. Like that line right there made me kind of think like, let's not get to that level.
Yeah, like if she turned around and started shaving the dad's body hair right now, you'd be like, okay, I see what's happening.
She's telling her parents how she's excited because she's trying out for show choir, and the parents give like this like, oh, type face. Like they don't look as excited for her as they should. But this is because she's come from like a long line of trying and failing, doing all these different things. And we're seeing clips of her like going for color guard and gymnastics and Spanish club, and she's awful at everything that she's been doing. So basically just as parents, you know, like you're rooting for your kid, but they don't want to see her fail again. So like they're conflicted.
I do love here that when she has color guard, she's doing the thing where she spins the flag and then she just falls over. You ever hold a flag before? Unless it's like 100-mile-an-hour wind, it should not knock you right over.
Those look like they could be a little heavy.
The flag's bigger than her. Like, the entire thing is huge.
But it's just a wooden stick and a piece of fabric. It's not going to knock over a 15-year-old girl.
I liked when she was going out for Spanish club. If you read, like, she's she goes, she's speaking Spanish, but the translation was, I should be accepted in the Spanish club because I am breasts. And you just see the one kid in the crowd.
I do enjoy the one little boy who's like super stoked that I am breasts.
And then like, oh, wow, like, so show choir, that should be fun to try out for.
Now, did any of you know what show choir was ahead of this? Because I had no fucking idea.
No, I had no clue.
No.
It's apparently just Glee.
Okay.
So it's basically like a choreographed, it's basically like musical drama theater, right? But instead of using like Sondheim or like, classic things, you do everything in relation to modern popular music and tell a story. So basically, like, Glee is basically just a show chorus thing, whatever. So it makes sense now, but I mean, I never watched Glee, but I understand what it is. But we never had that in our school, or like I've never heard anybody doing that.
Thank God.
I mean, like, we just had like drama, like that was about it. Yeah, like.
But also, drama did have the like crew people or tech, I think they called them at the time.
Yeah. They, like, that stuff exists.
Yeah.
From here, we're getting an intro to like both of their jobs. So you see like Mike at work first, and we're being told that he manages a bunch of boneheads down at the quarry. And you just see like this giant explosion outside of the office that he sits at. And he's sitting in front of like one of those, like, we've gone X amount of days without, an accident. And he, which was only set at 1, and then he erases it.
I know you like this was choreographed so easy. You see the 1 and you're like, what's going to happen, but it still was funny as he like depressingly had to wipe the 1 away and draw a 0. Like, I got a genuine chuckle out of that.
I always get a chuckle when I see that gag.
It has been done so many fucking times too, and like, but it works.
What do you think he did at the quarry? Like, I know like Fred Flintstone moved rocks, but like, what's a modern day quarry worker do?
It's the same thing. So you basically just explode
rocks,
and then you either mine out what's in them that you need, or you are using a quarry to, like, if it's like a limestone or whatever, like you just basically, you're getting stuff they need for other shit.
Yeah, and then you send it off, and then they build pyramids with it and stuff like that.
Or like curbstone.
You went with pyramids?
They're still making pyramids?
Yeah, sure. Somebody is. Probably in Vegas.
Yeah, wasn't there just a UFC fight at a giant pyramid in Vegas?
That's at the Sphere, and there is a pyramid in Vegas. It's called the Luxor, and I have stayed there.
Did 10,000 Egyptian slaves bring your bags to your room for you, or did aliens do it?
There was short staff that day. It was only 9,000. So, and Frankie's job is she works at like a car dealership, and she's talking about her boss, and her boss played by
that guy.
No, I blanked on his
Brian Doyle-Murray.
first name. Yeah, Brian Doyle-Murray. Bill Murray's brother.
I got so excited seeing him.
I smiled immediately. And as we record this too, a little behind the curtains, but it's 11/21 right now, right? So we are this year 7 days away from when you can officially start watching Christmas Vacation, Brian Doyle-Murray's greatest role of all time.
Oh, no. My favorite is when he's Noah from Noah's Arcade.
Look, I love him in Wayne's World. I love him in Caddyshack. I love him in Vacation. I feel like there's 2 Vacation 1 references in this, and he's one of them. But Brian Doyle-Murray is so great.
I was at this high because I saw him, and then we get Chris Kattan a few seconds later. I was like, yes!
This star-studded fucking car dealership.
Hey, you leave Mango alone, okay?
I was going to go with Corky Romano. I'm glad you said Mango.
I forgot about Corky Romano.
Well, Chris Kattan like plays like the role of like Frankie's best friend at work, and they were like, at first you see her talking with like someone else, and then like he walks off, and Chris Kattan his name was Bob in the show, right? So Bob walks up and is talking to her, and he's saying like, don't let him intimidate you. He may be the king of sales around here, but he's been rejected at the Elks Lodge twice. I'm not going to say by who, but it was me. And she's like, really? And then he's like, yeah, I told him that he was a pedophile.
Look, I'm not with Ferg on this one. I like Chris Kattan, and this was so fucking great.
No, I was excited about Chris Kattan. You are with me.
We are together.
I thought you were anti-Chris Kattan. Also, Chris Kattan killed by Goldberg.
Whoopi?
No, she killed herself, sadly, and Ted Danson had to carry her coffin all the way to the grave. Have you guys ever seen Santa's Sleigh, the movie where Goldberg is the, like...
Oh, when he's the devil?
I have not seen that.
He's
no.
Santa Claus, but he's a killer. And that scene, there. So if you look up, you can see, like, the giant scene. It's basically the scene from Punisher Warzone where he kills all of the old Mafia guys. But he kills, like, Fran Drescher and Chris Kattan. It's fucking wild. It's almost Christmas time. I would say put it on your list.
It's like a sci-fi channel horror movie.
Yeah, it's really, really low budget. It's like WCW was out of business, but we're still putting Goldberg as the star of our movie type of level.
So it has Goldberg, Chris Kattan, and Fran Drescher in it?
It does, yeah.
All right, I'll give it a watch. What was that other, like, Santa, like, horror movie that came out, like, a year or two ago with the guy from...
David Harbour last year, yeah. We did watch that one as well. That one was really good.
That's an action movie. It's not a horror movie.
It's basically just like him blowing people up and like stabbing people in the throat.
Why hasn't anybody made a horror Christmas movie called Sleigh Bells? S-L-A-Y.
Well, there's Santa's sleigh.
Just saying. I haven't spoken in a while, so I figured I'd contribute something.
I haven't spoken about, so I felt like I needed to.
Because there's already Silent Night, Deadly Night. There can only be so many Santa horror movies.
Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? On December 12th.
Just call me Butt Dad.
Yeah, I was gonna say we already have 2 horror movies called Jack Frost. That makes you Butt Son. It's like, oh my god, the roadie from Rockstar is playing harmonica with me while Michael Keaton, the snowman, snowboards down a mountain. The most horrifying movie that's ever existed.
That's somehow scarier than the other Jack Frost when he bangs fucking Shannon Elizabeth with a carrot.
With the carrot! Oh.
So, reeling this one right back in. They're getting paid. Frankie opens up her check and she's like, this can't be right. This is lower than what I spent on gas getting here. And then you cut to her in the boss's office. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with that check. That's your base salary. And, like, you know, if you want to make more, you have to sell cars. She's like, but I came really close to selling a car. That should count. And he said, well, see that buck up there? And he, like, you know, has, like, one of those typical, like, game heads, like, over where he sits. He's like, he was real close to missing that bullet. I thought was actually a pretty good comparison.
That is a good comparison. And it's, like, perfect, like, because Brian Doyle-Murray is so great at either being super gruff and, like, miserable or super lovable. Like, he can do either so well that you're like, when you see him at first, you're like, what's he gonna be here? Here, he feels almost like he's doing Jack Warden in used cars.
I feel like this is probably gonna come with great opposition. I feel like if you're talking just like a regular, like, out to dinner and hang, I bet he's the funner Murray to hang out with. Like, will make you laugh with dinner stories and stuff.
I think he would also be way more open to being like, can we talk about all the times at National Lampoon and stuff? Like, I feel like he'd be like, a few drinks, he'd want to tell you all that stuff, where, like, I think Bill probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't want to talk shit about Bill Murray, but he's the reason why we didn't get Ghostbusters 3 with all of them.
Yes, but Bill Murray also said that he wouldn't do the new Ghostbusters movies without Ernie Hudson. So you got to give him credit back on that one, because he was like, it has to be all 4 of us. And I feel like people shit on Ernie Hudson like he's not one of the Ghostbusters, but he's a
Harold Ramis?
No, he was saying he wouldn't do it without Ernie Hudson being Winston. Like,
oh,
he had to be in the movie too. Like, it had to be all of them, because they were originally saying like they were just going to get Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, and he was like, I'm not doing it without Ernie Hudson too. So like Bill Murray,
I'm not going to give him that much credit because I know he didn't want to do more Ghostbusters. He probably thought that was his out.
No, if you knew that you had that locked up and all you need to do is hire Ernie Hudson, I don't think that would be a problem.
I mean, especially given the fact that Jay was in the movie prior.
I was going to say, I am a little confused because I was in the 3rd Ghostbusters movie that came out and Bill Murray was in it. Did you not see that he's in the movie?
I hate you.
And Dan Aykroyd.
I hate you almost as much as I hate Ghostbusters 2016.
And Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson. We're all there.
I'm glad they were all in it, and I love everybody who is in that. I love everybody involved in that movie, but Jesus Christ.
So anyways, this whole conversation is just more a reminder that she needs to get out there and sell some cars. There was a nice little callback too with the license thing too, where he's like, oh, I need your updated license. It's like, that old one you have doesn't look anything like you and it's confusing people. He's like, oh yeah. And then he gets this awful photo over. He's like, this looks just like you. This is great.
But perfect, right? Like, villain line right away.
You think he'd want the younger one?
I don't know, because sales is such an in-person thing. I think you'd want the one that looks the most like what you assume they look like.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's because it's sales. You see that post and go, ooh, I'm getting her. And then the old bait and switch.
You should also, though, like, if you want posters or, like, photos of your staff, you probably don't want the, like, professional photographer at the DMV.
Sure.
It is strange that, hey, we need your license pic. And not, hey, can you bring in a picture? Like,
We want to hang your license photos on the wall. Yeah.
That's how you know he's a villain. He wants the worst version of everybody.
So you see her now back outside as she's trying to sell a car to a customer. And like in the middle of her trying to pitch it, you get like a note, like the speakers that are like outside, like the giant speakers that are like meant to like, all call everybody, is trying to get in touch with Frankie because she has a call and it's her son's school. And she's like yelling up at the thing and it's hurt her in trouble because if it's just trouble, just ask him if I could call back.
I really thought the joke was going to be, it's just a speaker. It's not a two-way thing. But it somehow answers her because it is just a speaker.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, this is a very smart speaker. This is just like a classic old speaker on a stand with one set of wires in it. But yeah. And the person she's trying to sell a car to as well is Ping Wu, who has like an insanely long resume. But as far as sitcoms go, he's Ping in Seinfeld.
Well, so anyways, now we cut to Frankie and she's on the phone and she's asking the school if everything's okay. And you like just see like a quick cut shot to Brick sitting outside by himself. So no one ever picked him up today from school. And then you see this like back and forth phone conversation between her and her husband. You said you were going to pick him up. It's like, no, you said you were going to pick him up. And then she's like, I even put the Post-it note on your thermos. He's like, what's that mean? And like, you see the Post-it note like for him on the thermos.
As a person who has Post-it notes everywhere and fucks everything up, and Ferg called me on it the week of this fucking episode, I was like,
waiting.
Man, I feel so fucking bad in this scene right now.
But crafty resolve because, we see a minute later, she grabs like a customer and basically takes him out for a test ride, but just uses that as an opportunity to like trick this customer into picking up her son so she can leave work.
It's kind of a genius move when she's like, turn left here. You're like, I've only ever been part of one test drive ever, and they had no input. They were just like, what do you think? Like, it's cool. Like, it was just like, nobody was like, and go left here and make the U-turn here. It was like, you assume at some point you're going to turn around and go back to the
dealership.
dealership.
They just let me drive around the block with mine and then right back in.
They're like, okay, cool. We know you're not a psycho. I do love, though, too, like, you're really taking your life in your hands as the car salesman. You're just like, sure, I'm gonna let this fucking person just drive me. I have no idea what they drive like, or if they've been fucking done crank this morning. Like, you just drive this $20,000 vehicle around and try to kill us.
You're working on commission, man. You gotta put your life in your hand.
I've worked on commission before, and you do it.
So yesterday I got my new car, and I didn't realize until I was leaving the parking lot, but like I did not drive that car until I bought it.
You're like, what the fuck am I doing? Where's everything? Yeah.
Let's go putter.
It's new. It should be fine, but
weird thing too for us, like this is a very specific thing for all of us. We all grew up in the same town, and our town is a mile long. So the idea of like nobody picked up from school, you're like, I guess I would walk home, right? Like you never think of the fact that like people didn't grow up in that small of a scenario.
He's a little young for that. I don't think we would have walked.
But if you had to, you'd know how to get home.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're going miles to school, you can't walk that, even if he is an older kid.
Well, this kid has like a brittle bone problem, so.
Yeah, but Jonathan Brandis had an asthma problem in Sidekicks, and he started walking to school and then running to school, and then he beat up Cellini, and then Bull from Night Court was proud of him. So.
Noted. Now that Brick's in the car with them, I like how he's kind of like in on this pitch to get this guy to drive to buy this car. And she's like, hey, Brick, honey, how do you like those seats? They're amazing. They also come with optional leather trim and preferred suede inserts. She's going, and if you buy today, I'll throw in the inserts for free. Mom, are you crazy? That's a $600 value.
I love this idea because that means this has happened so many times before. Also, who wants suede inserts in their car? Suede is like ruined if rain gets on it. Imagine being like throwing a soda can back in the back of your car.
Suede was like the old way of like the interior. Like if you had a cloth interior back then, like you had like a way more suede-y type of fabric.
I sweat too much for suede.
Yeah, and back then too, like every car we ever had, of course, we were kids that had like that kind of interior was used and just had like a million like the cigarette burns that were so obviously cigarette burns. You know what I mean? They're like the little hard circles.
Oh, the moths must have got into the car.
The moth burrows got in this car earlier.
When I was at the dealership, I was talking to this woman because we were both just sitting there, and she was waiting for her car to like come through like the inspection or whatever. They were like, she was waiting for them to do that. And we were talking about like how like the interior of cars, like outside of if you pay for leather, like the interior is like changed in the last like 10, 15 years. And now it's that more like, easy to wipe off type of whatever you'd call it. I'm not really sure.
Synthetic material.
Like a vinyl-ish.
And she's like, my old car, I literally somehow stained that car with water. She's like, we spilt water and the mark never went away. I was like, ugh.
It might be easier to clean these days. It doesn't stop mine from being covered with like an inch of dust because I never clean it.
I love that now because cars have those giant screens that you need for everything, like directions or music or anything. And there's you could wipe it down once a day. You'll go to look and the sun will hit it. And you'll be like, I can't see where the turn is.
My last car, it would get so dusty all the time.
Where's this dust coming from? I know I'm not losing that much skin.
Right, and none of us smoke, so it's it's hard to like figure out what's in the car.
I vape in the car.
I was gonna say we don't smoke, but we vape, and vape makes a way worse stain on your windshield.
I guess that can make like a smear sort of thing. But we don't do that. I don't do that in the car. But my wife's an adult who just quit smoking. I'm the one who's like, I'll be fine. I'll quit someday. Let me just buy this USB chargeable thing for the rest of my life.
So we cut forward like a little bit more, and now we have Frankie and Brick heading home. And as they're walking in, you have Brick say, this is the first time it comes up, like he does it a couple times, but he keeps saying like, oh, well, at least you're my hero. And it's like, oh, thanks, pal. And then they enter the kitchen, and Frankie like just drops like all these bags of fast food on the table, and it's like, I made dinner. Axel goes to just grab a bag and walk off, and they give him that hard stop.
This is also one of those things too where like I totally get the ease of it, but like 2 pounds of pasta and a pound of ground beef would have fed all of them for way less than buying everybody a meal from a fast food restaurant.
Yes, but time.
Yeah, it's the time.
I get the time, but like this is what I'm saying, like something like that's so simple to do where like how long does it take to boil water and cook beef or turkey? Like 10 minutes?
I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, I come home from work and I don't want to do shit and I order food and I don't have kids.
That's really like the bulk of my the bulk at least of some of my bad eating habits are, because it's just, you're exhausted and like the last thing you want to be is like, oh, so now I'll just cook for a half hour.
No, I get that. I've been there before too. I'm just saying like if you're in a situation where you're like money is super tight.
Sure.
Time should be more valuable than money, and cooking $1 box of plain pasta is super easy. You know what I mean?
Maybe the kids are all super picky.
Maybe. I also will say too, inflation is a fucking crazy thing where like I was thinking the other day where like a buddy of mine who we both had apartments near each other, we would get like a 12-pack of PBR and one of those Shaw's pizzas, and it was like $8 total split between two of us, and now the pizza is like $9 and the beer is $14. You're like, oh god, we can pull it off now.
Yeah. Every time I walk into the grocery store, it's like $50, and I'm like, what the hell did I buy?
You're getting off good if you're getting out for $50.
I'm literally buying like the days, like it's garbage, like what I'm buying.
Bread ends. Like
pretty much. I'm buying like bread and like yogurt and like soda for myself. And I'm like, how is that $50? And like fruit. I'm like, how is this 50?
When it comes to grocery shopping right now, it is definitely troubling times in the kingdom.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I get the idea of like we're in a pinch. Let's just do a quick fast food dinner. What they're doing here. When Axel tries to walk away with the food, they stop him like, no. We eat as a family. And then it just cuts to like the whole family like on the couch watching Dancing with the Stars, but while eating. But they're not eating at the dinner table and saying grace or anything. They're just sitting there fucking watching Dancing with the Stars all on one couch.
Not to pull back, but I thought this was definitely a vacation Brian Doyle-Murray Chevy Chase reference. When he walks away, he goes, "Hey, underpants," which is what Chevy Chase calls the Wyatt Earp lookalike in the bar who shoots him in Vacation.
I mean, it could be. I wouldn't rule it out, but
I just don't think that there's more than two references where someone just yells, "Hey, underpants" at the same time.
Well, in this case, he's in his underpants. So
I understand that. When the producers of The Middle listen to this, if this was a vacation reference, please let me know. And if I am wrong, I am sorry.
also, we've all been that age. Did you ever walk around in your underwear around your family all
Absolutely
the time?
not.
Like,
Never.
it's not
No.
a thing.
I'm an adult with his own home, and I still will put pants on before I get up and do anything.
I would say, like, even more importantly, because he has a sister that's not very different in age
Yeah.
from him. Like, that's,
Yeah.
I think, like, the most definitive, like, why it would be weird.
I don't do that even in my own house right now. I just wear shorts, Swiss shorts around the house.
I would say that I wear shorts. Last time I did, Jay made fun of me.
It's just not typical when you wear shorts.
Did you get blinded by his white legs?
My white legs and then the patches of hair that are missing from the 30 years of tight jeans.
So they're all on the couch. Sue's saying, like, oh, I'm trying to decide what number I should do for my show choir audition tomorrow. And Axel's like, what? Does it really matter? Like, you're not going to get it either way. There's this kind of a rolling gag now throughout the episode, too, is like when someone calls for, like, it'd be like, Mom, and then Mike, and then Mike will say, like, and they just kind of do like that around the horn with the names.
I mean, like, none of us have ever been in that situation where we have 3 kids, all of whom are old enough they've beaten you down so much, but, like, I just feel so bad for Sue this entire episode.
She's getting the Meg Griffin treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I like about Sue is, like, life keeps shitting on her, and she just always remains positive. Big smile.
Sue is the kind of person who will, like, dumb herself into success or something like that. You know, and, like, it's in spite of the bad circumstance, and you, like, hope for those characters to, like, make it out the other side.
You know what's funny is even though, like, Axel's the one who's telling Sue, like, you're not going to get this anyway, so I even go for it. As much as, like, the parents don't like that he's saying, like, mean shit to his sister, it's not that they don't agree. Because even, like, her dad's like, well, you know, I think maybe you should try, like, a really quick song, like, real quick, and just, like, leave and get them, you know, wanting more.
I do love that, because he's being sort of supportive.
Yes, but it's very like, enough that, like, I guess it's good enough for, like, us, the listener, to know what he means by it, but it's supposed to go over her head.
And this is where we get Brick's weird tick.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. It happens a lot in this episode. I don't know how much. I don't really have a good enough recollection of the show, but I do think this is something that carries.
Yeah, I don't know if it carries or not, but
I enjoy it. It doesn't bother me.
Every now and again, so basically every now and again when he says something, he'll repeat the last word in like a weird demonic whisper.
Gave me House Bunny vibes.
Anthony.
I think it's funny because when he catches himself, he can't help himself not do it later. Where he's like, sorry. Like, he has to keep doing it. Like, I love the feeling of like, it's like a tick you can't stop.
Because he's reminding his mom that she has a meeting on Monday with the teacher. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, it's imperative that you both be there, she said. Imperative. Like, and then even like Mike, the dad's like, who's he whispering to? Like, why does he always do that?
That's such a weird thing too, where like there's like a million theories of that. Like, did you have an imaginary friend? Were you like, talking to a ghost? Because kids are more perceptive, like all this weird stuff. Or like, I don't know if he's supposed to be creepy or if he's just like weird.
I think it's just a weird thing for sure.
Yeah, they're really trying to drive in throughout the episode that he's just a weird kid.
He's just a fucking weirdo.
And the mom's like, and what teacher's meeting is this, by the way? You didn't even give me a note. And then he just pulls this wet, crumpled up note out of his mouth.
it's so fucking gross.
Yeah, Gordo hates spit.
So this made me question, was everything wet in his backpack because keeping it in his mouth earlier?
Oh, I don't know what that was. They never really touched on it, so.
He was basically like squirreling this note, right?
Yeah. Ugh.
Better than keystering it.
Yeah.
Suitcasing it, I believe is the term.
But why did he have this in his mouth? And it's just like for a meeting that he's not even trying to hide.
Because kids put everything in their mouths.
Kids do, but not kids his age.
Yeah, how old is he supposed to be? Like 8, 9?
Baby, 7, 8, 9, but like, I don't know, my baby does that, but like, I didn't do that when I was 8, you know?
That you remember.
That I remember. I could have been the fucking weird kid. I may have also been making weird noises too. But you guys probably would remember that too, because we all knew each other a million years ago, so.
Yeah, that's why we call you Tongue and Joe.
We finally let the podcast listeners realize my real nickname.
From what you can read in this note, the meeting's supposed to be on Monday. And she's like, you know, we both work on Monday. And that's when you get like, yeah, sorry.
That's got to be tough too, because they're like imagine someone being like a day before being like, you have to get out of work now. Like that shit's hard. But this is basically every plot of like the first 4 seasons of Roseanne, where it's like, yeah, Becky, you didn't tell me to go to school. I gotta work, and then somebody's gonna take a shift at the Lomo. You're like, oh god.
That's literally in the pilot of Roseanne that we covered.
Yeah, I think is that when we all bark. I think that's the pilot, right?
But about this meeting, there's literally zero reason why both fucking parents have to be there. I would flip out on this teacher.
Yeah, this is a one parent scenario.
I mean, realistically, like how many of these kids in schools these days have parents that are together? Like you can't say like you will have to bring both parents.
Yeah.
And like I agree there too, sure.
Some people can co-parent, but like some absolutely will not.
But like it's hard to tell somebody 2 people they have to both be in the same place at the same time. Like that's really hard nowadays, right? Like everybody has to work a billion hours.
Yeah, everyone's juggling schedules, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what are they going to do if you don't show up?
Right.
Could send you to the principal's office.
But also, like, imagine being like, sorry, I couldn't come. I had to help my friend find his finger at the quarry. You're like, oh, you mean mad at that fucking guy? Like, I don't think so. I think that should go.
Oh, Finger and Greg.
No, this would be Hank.
Yeah, Hank is the one who lost his finger.
Hank's the one who lost his finger.
Oh!
This is also Sue asking her parents, hey, are you guys disappointed in me? You know, because like I never make anything. And then this is again with Mike with the brutal honesty. Sure, I'm disappointed, hon. That's like the 12th thing you've tried out for.
Honestly, though, I do love his answer where he says he's glad he doesn't have to go to all those things, though.
Right. Like, that's understandable. Where he's like, look, I'm stoked I'm not at your fucking soccer game every fucking 2 days or whatever. Like, I understand that.
Like, my son plays soccer. I love going to his games, but there was one point where he was doing soccer, t-ball, and flag football all in the same time. I was like, you have to pick one and stick with it.
That's a lot of your week, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great for them, but like you also have to go too.
Luckily, we all ended up with a hobby that our parents didn't need to be there for. Hanging out at a parking lot at nighttime. Parents knew where we were. Didn't have to be there.
Hey, Ma, if you need me, there's going to be 15 of us at a Chinese restaurant sharing a small order of French fries.
All day long.
Yeah, but you know what? That Chinese food restaurant played the long game because you guys go there now so much as adults that they were like a drug dealer giving you the first hit for free. Like, you have given them so much money over the subsequent 30 years that it doesn't matter.
We built their other editions.
Well, I'll say this to the 2 of you that did not attend our high school reunion. We made it a point to go there for like a drink before they closed out. So we left the reunion. We went right over there and we all, grabbed a drink, or a bunch of us grabbed a drink together. The couple that owns the place, the wife happened to be behind the bar for a second towards the end. Because I think it must have been like one of her kids was one of the bartenders because, everyone's gotten so old now. And when she saw us, she was like elated to see everybody. So it was really nice to see her.
Yeah, you guys really missed out.
And she gave us all free cake, which was just a giant donut.
Yo, that cake was awesome.
It was just a donut. I don't know why
it was a giant
donut.
Cake donut.
I mean, who's be mad at that, though?
She's like, do you want a piece of cake? I'm like, okay. Everyone else is eating. I was like, I might as well have a piece of cake. And then I took a bite. I'm like, this does not taste like cake. And then it wasn't until someone said it, I was like, oh, this is a donut.
It was still cake shaped, but it was donut material. Like, it was weird.
I feel like the people at that restaurant are like the hot dog guy who follows around Homer in The Simpsons. Like, he follows around like, lady, he's putting my kids through college. Like, that restaurant went from being this tiny little hole in the wall that we would hang out and watch wrestling at to being like a
It's like a beautiful bar and stuff too. Yeah.
Like, they're doing just fine, and that's all in the sweat of you guys. So they were smart for like letting us just hang out there when we were younger.
Yeah, shout out to Hong Kong Dragon.
Winthrop, Mass. Best Chinese in the world.
Wonderful people.
I can't eat anything there anymore, but I would get sick.
Not true. They have a gluten-free menu.
Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah. They've like always had one too.
Dude, they had that when we were young.
Yeah.
All right, well, now they just when I thought I was out, they sucked me back in.
But anyways, we can discuss dinner plans later. So Sue's asking, like, do you guys think I should even go for it? Like, is it even worth it going for like the show choir? And like, as much as like they want to tell her, don't bother and waste your time, like they ultimately we're seeing them be supportive and like, no, you should do it.
She has her like weird like come to God moment here where she's like, she hasn't been beaten down yet. Like, let her have her fun, which is like an understandable thing, right? We're like, I don't know, like kids are so happy and open. Like, don't like put your shit on them, you know?
Next scene, we have Frankie and Mike, and now they're like at that teacher meeting. And the teacher's like, Brick's a very quirky child, like maybe clinically. And like, you know, she's insinuating like you need to have him looked at. And if you read like on like, I think like, I forget if it was like the Wikipedia or if you just read like any of the notes in the show, but like it's heavily insinuated that Brick is like on the spectrum, but like isn't tested for it like throughout the entire series. But I guess they just never bother to have him checked officially.
I guess in 2009 though, that's still kind of a less.
Yeah, I guess it was like, it is funny how different things were like in that short amount of time.
Like now they would just flat out say it.
Yeah. And also it's like, it's good to know that thing in case you have to alter his learning. You know what I mean? Like, and make sure that you're teaching him in a way that works for him, right?
I do like the line from their father, from Mike, and he goes, well, I hope it's clinical enough that our insurance covers it.
That is understandable too, right? Especially in the world of co-pays and everything going on.
Yeah, because as much as like she's going on it and like, you know, trying to convince them, they were like dead set against it. And it was like, it wasn't until like the teacher says his best friend is his backpack. And then they're like, we should probably figure something out.
Well, I mean, kids can be weird.
Yeah, but is that because he's like too awkward to interact with other kids? Or does he just have like this like...
I think we see some examples that he's not good at interacting with other people.
The very first scene you see him, it's the mother telling him to stand near other kids and pretend to be their friend so he's not like a gazelle getting picked off by lions. So you get that he's socially awkward too.
You also see him too throughout the whole episode. All he's doing is reading a book. In any sort of part of his spare time, he's just reading a book.
But that's not weird. That's like not an awkward thing.
Depends on the situation. There is an example later where it is an awkward thing.
Look, they do show that, but like the fact that he just likes to read doesn't make him weird.
Actually, it was one of the examples as they're talking here. Yeah, it was like his own birthday party and they're singing him happy birthday and he's just reading a book.
Can't remember if he ends up being like a genius like Malcolm. If that's like...
What's the thing when it's touching his teacher's tits?
What?
What was it like?
Forgot about it.
It was like... I know he was like innocently trying to get her attention, but like, why did they write it in like that? Like, it was so weird. Like,
minutes.
He just saw some big naturals. He had to go for it.
He said, look at this.
Like, he didn't know what he was doing. Like,
it is a scene that kind of jars you at first. You're like, wait, what's happening right now? I'm watching this.
can you imagine in modern, like, I don't think that would work now. Can you imagine in modern fucking Hollywood be like, all right, we're gonna get this 8-year-old boy to keep touching this girl's tits. Like, even if it's like an older woman, it's funny. Like, it's not, that would never fucking fly right now.
No, you could never do that. You could never be like grabbing a woman, even if it's a kid. It's just, yeah, it's too weird. But in 2009, super funny. So here we are.
Better times.
Better time. Better time. Better time.
This conversation is also when we found out that Axel used to have a head. He was basically a real life cone head, and it flattened out naturally.
Yeah, like a candy corn.
That means eventually he'll be a great driving school teacher.
I guess that's how you deal with stuff. Like, you just ignore it and hope for the best. And it sure enough went down on its own.
They go to the Gordon School of Parenting.
Did you have a cone head?
Yeah, I did. No, I didn't. No. But I feel like a cone head, though, like babies' heads can be conical, and they do go away on their own. Because, like, the dome, right? It doesn't, like, the crest.
Well, it happens a lot in natural birth because it's so, you're like pushing something through a small, and that's like, it happens to a lot of babies, yeah.
Yeah. They used to bind them to make them longer.
Those were feet.
I'd like to see proof of that, Gordo. I'm not going to say yes or no until I can see sighting. Binding babies' heads. Okay, sure.
Now Frankie's getting a little more nervous about finances even more than before. She's like, between, you know, having a busted dryer and now having a busted kid, like, I really need to sell this car. And also I can't get caught sneaking in, or, you know, my keister's going to get kicked to the curb. When she's like running into work after this meeting because she wasn't actually granted any time off, she just snuck away apparently for it. There's the whole hey, Frankie, where have you been? Oh, I've been here. I've just been, working with this fine woman. She like finds a woman like randomly who's nearby looking at a car.
It's a very lucky break.
Yeah. Yeah, even the girl's like, actually, I am interested in this car.
Although, to be fair, if someone's walking around a car lot, you can basically assume they're somewhat interested in a car.
Sure. So, and the customer's like, oh, I don't know if this is for me, because it was like a convertible. She thought it looked too wild. And she's walking around. She's like, are you kidding me? And she's like going over all these details, doing the whole, I consider myself a matchmaker. And then again, you get the loudspeaker, Frankie, call on line 1. It's your husband. Sounds pretty mad. He's at Axel's school. And, she's trying to avoid it. And she's yelling back and forth at this microphone. But it does come to a point where she has to, run off to the side and take this phone call.
And I guess we're to assume at this point, too, that Axel's like the most normal one because he plays football.
Sure.
Because like they make a big point of this, too, where it's like, you're throwing away what you're doing. Like this turns into like a real like Friday Night Lights scenario.
Well, in Indiana, I'm sure it's big. I mean, football's big anywhere, so...
Yeah, but high school football, I feel like, is maybe big in like the South and the Midwest.
Dude, it was big in our school.
The Deep South.
All right, Cornrows, technical foul.
Now we cut to Frankie, who's walking into the kitchen as like Mike's trying to yell at Axel. And, the first thing we're hearing is like, and I suspended for 3 games? What the hell's the matter with you? And she's coming in like, wait, whoa, what did he do? And I don't want to say all he did, because I don't know how.
No, I think you're right here. All he did was call the coach a moron. 3 games, that seems excessive.
Call the coach a moron, yeah. It's like 3-game suspension. It seems a little steep.
Gotta make an example out of the problem child so the team respects you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it does seem like it's pretty warm here, so it's either the very end or very beginning of the school year.
Hearing how they're like talking to, like, I don't know. I assume that, I don't know. The whole moron thing is just, I don't know. I felt like that was a bad example.
It's not aggressive enough to feel warranted for 3 games, I guess, which is like 3 full weeks of football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, either he's acted up in the past or, like Ferg said, he's being made an example of.
Also depends how good he is. If he was like a number 1 wide receiver, I don't think he would have got suspended.
That sounds right, too. I feel like the punishment doesn't fit the crime if you were good at what you're doing.
His home punishment, they don't even know what to do. They send him to his room, and he's like, oh, wait, you like your room. Go to Sue's room.
I like that he goes, you call him a moron all the time. And he goes, well, he threw a bomb on 4th and 1.
Frankie's like, I just wish he had something like a car or a TV or a cell phone, like something good we could take away from him.
He's a 15-year-old boy, and they don't have TV. Go in his room and find his porn.
Take off his door.
Oh, take anything, but don't take that.
Take the door is a real way to punish them, yeah.
Not really. He's not modest. He walks around the house in his underwear all day.
Yeah, but he might not be cranking one with no door.
Yeah, I feel like the modesty is different than the sexuality stuff.
You take that door away, you're not punishing him, you're punishing the rest of the house.
Sue's like, why did you do this?
He won't stop.
It feels good. It feels good.
That's the wrong
Love comes in
kid.
spurts. Love comes in spurts.
Well, right here is when Brick enters. And again, he's telling his Mom, you're my hero. And she's like, that's nice, honey. But we're trying to think of a good punishment for your brother right now. And he's like, you'll need a costume. It's like, huh? And that's when it's explained that she's going to need a costume because his book report is on Superwoman and she has to go dressed up like her on Monday. And that's like part of the project that they're doing. He also said, you could also come as Jungle Girl, but I'll have to know that by today.
Could they not get rights to the actual superheroes?
I was going to ask. I know there's Supergirl, but I don't recall a Superwoman.
I'm sure there is one, but I don't know her.
Sure, there's an Elseworld character in DC, but not like mainline.
I'm the wrong person to ask.
I mean, I used to know much more about this stuff when we used to read comics like religiously every Wednesday, going on a new comic day, but I just don't recall a Superwoman. There's a Jungle Boy, and he's terrible.
Not getting into that one. The mom is like, damn it, Brick, you have to tell me about these things earlier. He's like, I did. I've been telling you all week that you're my hero. Didn't you listen? And like, he like runs off and she's like trying to, honey, come back. Listen, hold on, come back. But it's like, no, you should still be mad at him. That's saying, Mom, you're my hero. Is not, Mom.
This is not enough information.
Yeah, that's not the way to do it, bro.
Maybe he said more and she's an unreliable narrator.
I don't know. He's like explained it pretty like at no point did he say there's a specific book report meeting or anything like that you're gonna need the costume.
Yeah, just constantly saying you're my hero is just like building up her ego to be like, you're a good mom.
Thank you. That's all thanks. It's not like, oh, what does this mean?
Also, too, why the fuck would she have to go dressed as a fucking superhero? Why can't you just give the book report on the fucking superhero?
I mean, maybe this is specific to that class. Everyone has to dress up for something.
So everybody's mom has to come in?
As something, maybe, yeah.
Well, apparently they need both parents for a fucking teacher conference, so I wouldn't put it past them.
True.
It just feels weird for like any literary thing, though, where you're like, I want you to be the start of Captain's Courageous. So, Mom, come in with your legs cut off, bobbing in the water. Like, I can't make that costume.
How do you feel about being an Iron Giant?
No, what? Don't get
Don't
Jay
touch
in
any
trouble.
sore spots for Jade right now.
Right around here is when Sue runs in and she's like super stoked. And she gets to tell her parents that like she did it. She actually made it into show choir. And they're like, you did? It's like, yeah. And they're like, are you sure? Like it's written down somewhere? Like, yes. They already rotated me in. I got to learn everything super quick because the first competition's on Friday. And they're, obviously super proud and celebrating with her.
This is where they jump cut to a whole neighborhood party with a banner that just says Yay Sue. Where I'm like, whenever we have our meetup with our fans, it needs to be a Yay Sue party.
Their neighborhood party with their above ground pool.
Yep.
If you have an above ground pool, I'm not shitting on you. I have an above ground pool.
I had one growing up too. Yeah, I was gonna say we were above ground pool people here. We're not. This is not a group of indoor in-ground pool people.
I'm just saying it's not a party kind of pool.
It is not a party kind of pool. If you start a whirlpool going, you could break the seams of that thing so quickly.
I don't know, Ferg. Try throwing a party and inviting us all into the pool. I bet it'll be a fun time.
Yeah, it was a very hot summer.
In December, it's a guy's pool party for Christmas.
So we do see this family party, by the way. She's talking to like a couple random relatives, a couple like older women and stuff.
This is one thing that I think will die off that was part of our lifetimes. It won't be probably part of our kids' lifetimes, which is the old people smoking with oxygen tanks next to them. Like that's going to be a thing that goes away. That is a trope that's like probably not going to last,
No, but you know what will be a thing? I keep seeing these Instagram videos of, I guess that like now it sucks in air, like the oxygen tanks, and people have gone by and farted in the intake, and then you hear like,
That's one reel and it's fake.
It's not.
It is. I've seen it.
Really?
It's the same guy that has the one when he also farts into the fan when the dad's with the bed just reading.
I love how you said that, and Gordo couldn't not laugh. Just giggling.
All right, fine. I stand corrected. Can't fart into people's oxygen tanks.
They're pressurized oxygen tanks. I don't think they make one that will keep you alive that pulls from outside air.
There's a point where Frankie calls everyone in from outside. She said it's getting a little chilly outside, and then like with the between that and everything else, they just come in and eat. And then there's like the whole family is like in the room watching TV together, like extended family now, not just like the two of them and the kids. And what was this a real game show? Like what was that? That like
Extreme Makeover.
Oh, that's right.
They would park the bus in front of the house and go. Everyone have to go move that bus.
Okay, I remember them yelling, "Move that bus!" I'm like, "What game show is that?" But now that does come right back to mind as soon as you say it.
No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Oh, you got the crack house. Like, oh fuck.
But from the party, we cut to the actual performance itself. This is the swing sessions going on. And this group that she joined, the show choir, their song is all written to the tune of "Get This Party Started." Was that like with Pink, right?
This is Pink, I believe, yeah.
So you see the choir and they're singing the song, and like you before it's even addressed, like you as a like viewer of the show are going, "Where is Sue?" And I'm looking around, and I'm glad it was touched on, but like not. It gives you enough time to figure it out yourself, and then it's like. It gets to the parents who are watching, and they're like, where is Sue?
Like the old lady asks you, she's in the back behind the pregnant girl.
They just cut to a girl who's like 9 months, like fully pregnant, like the most like so pregnant you would not be advised to be doing what she's doing.
And that's when we reveal that Sue's actually part of the crew, not the actual choir group itself. And she's like one of like the few like in a row that are in like a black shirt, and she's like holding like this crate. We don't know what the crate's for yet, but she's just kind of holding that.
I love though here that he gets, I know Gordon didn't like this, but I love how happy the dad gets when he realizes how happy the daughter is.
Yes, this is what I was alluding to earlier. It's like his redemption. He's proud of her because he sees how much it means to her.
Yeah, but he's like, that's my daughter. You're like, you feel for him. You're like, he's finally...
No, that's not what gets me. It's the slow motion into the cringe part where you know what's coming.
I will give you that I don't like the slow motion. I mean, think of the opening of Home Alone 2. We're going to a lot of Christmas stuff here this week. That's super funny. Does not go slow, right? It's funny because everybody falls in real time.
Oh, the monsters. Everything was in fast speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High speed is funny.
No, I get what you mean, and that wasn't why I disliked it. I disliked it because I was like, oh no, I feel so bad for her, and I know she's going to be so embarrassed. Because this is their one shining, like, we're a family, and look, she did it.
They did kill the nicest moment of the episode where, like, I was, like, really happy. But
I do say that the shots to her are so heartbreaking, where she's just so happy, smiling and waving at her family. Like, she finally has this moment. You feel so fucking bad for her.
Yeah, no, I just was so embarrassed because I saw it coming. I actually stopped the episode and I was like, no, come on. I know what's happening, but no.
You put it back on?
Yes,
No,
I did.
no, the rest of it he's going to have to hear dictated through us.
Yeah, so what ended up happening, guys?
I mean, it works. I think that's the way to do it.
He had a lot of support. Even Chris Kattan was there.
Yeah, I know. He was
Chris
at the family
Kattan
barbecue too.
Looks back and mouths, "I'm sorry," and you're like, heartbroken. Chris Kattan's such a nice man in this scenario. What a good friend. I would have been like, head down, up and out. I've been like, we'll talk about this at work Monday. Like, you're having a tough time. I don't need to be here for this.
So yeah, but because of like the parents cheering for her and everything, and she's like distracted and smiling and like waving back at them, she misses her cue to do the one thing she's supposed to do and put that box underneath the foot of like the choir member who's like standing like basically right behind her so they could take a step down. And as you'd expect, that kind of result garners her basically creating this mousetrap like fucking domino effect.
Chain
'Cause
reaction.
once the girl falls, everything else starts going.
I hope the pregnant girl's okay.
I want to say, I think the better joke, there's one girl hanging from like the lighting truss after this. It should have been the pregnant girl hanging from the lighting rig.
Did you think she had one leg at one point?
I did. Yes, I did.
She's
I was
hanging and she has the leg up and you can't see the other leg at all and then she kicks down. I go, oh, okay.
I thought that was like a funnier joke where like the poor one-legged girl is hanging from this. Yeah, no, it should have been, she either should have been one-legged or pregnant or both. Better joke.
Kind of a bummer because we find out she does lose her job in the show choir due to this, and you know how much it meant to her. And I get it. She's a liability.
I made it as tough to not be able to just put a box down, right? It's not asking a lot.
Do you think she purposely lied to them by saying she made the show? Or did she think that she was equally part of the show by being crew?
I think equally part.
Yeah, I think she's innocent enough. I don't know enough about the character, actually, to know if she's dumb or not.
I think to her it was like a team effort, right? Like she's part of the team. Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were the water boy, would you tell your parents you were the water boy?
No, but I also wouldn't tell
Tell
them
him
I
about
got
that
this
Bobby
tattoo. Henry Winkler on me.
Oh, mama don't know, Ken.
That's some high quality H2O.
So now we're getting more voiceover work, and we're hearing Frankie say, like, I was at the end of my rope, but what could I do? I was the no-show mom whose kid's best friend was his backpack. I put my Spanx on and went. And you get like this like mini montage of her trying to like put Spanx on, like with all of her power.
I will say, it's not that this wasn't funny, but when this episode is 24 minutes long almost, when most are 22, this seemed unnecessary.
I didn't mind it because that led in. You saw how hard she worked to get this costume on, and the fact that she goes to the school and it's the wrong day.
I get little clock watchy on these episodes sometimes where I'm like, what could we cut here to make this 22, not 23 and a half?
Yeah, you didn't need her putting it on. You could have just had the narration and then the jump cut.
So you can keep that. I would cut a big chunk of the play. You didn't need the first half of that. Ella had to do with them discovering she's not actually in it, and then what happened.
And not in slow motion.
Yeah, regular speed. There's your 2 minutes right there.
Boom. We're good. Back to Spanx.
So now we see Brick's classroom, and like Frankie walks in like this full Superwoman attire, but as mentioned earlier, a little early for it. So the teacher just goes, "Oh, that's next Monday," and like Brick just kind of goes like does like the whoops thing, and then like I'd be so pissed. Like imagine how embarrassing. Like she went above and beyond to be like legit an awesome mom and like do this for him.
Yeah, this is like being a great mom scenario.
I would be like, can Brick just do his presentation now then?
I'm here. Spanx for nothing. We're doing this shit. Yeah.
Did you say Spanx for nothing?
I did, yes.
Okay, good call.
Sharp as attack I am tonight.
Yeah. Oh, samesies. Frankie's walking down the hallway and she gets a phone call from, his name's Bob, but I just want to keep saying Chris Kattan. He's even like, "Hey, it's me, Bob. Listen." And then that Gail woman, the customer that she had talked to before, she's back and she's like looking to get the car, but that dummy Pete keeps going to move in for the kill. And she's like, "Oh no, shit." And like, so like now she has to like race over to the school. Oh, also Bob mentions that they've been like trying to like just like fucking distract her by giving her more snow cones, but she's already had a couple grapes.
This is one of the few things I got really aggravated at. It's a very sitcom thing. "Hey, it's me, Bob." It's like, "Yeah, I know your fucking number. It's 2009 and we have cell phones. You're saved in here. I know who it is. We're friends. I know your voice and you're saved in my phone."
What if he was calling from work line? Like a main line at work?
All right, so if you were getting called from work and you've got 4 employees, do you think you'd have a hard time gauging who was calling you?
Also, that's not the case because they cut to him on a cell phone in a car watching.
Valid.
It could have been a customer's phone he stole, maybe, but...
Who knows? All right.
Also, Chris Kattan is a great friend on this show.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
He was carried the entire way by the rock the entire episode, like he was in a baby Bjorn.
She goes to like run, slips, and then we cut to like a little bit later, and she's talking to that like fellow mom customer from before. They're in the car together. And she's going to all like she's doing like this like very long, wordy explanation of all the things that are in the car, and like she's like talking really fast, but I didn't know like why she would be like that right now. Like she's
just overwhelmed at this point. She's had shit week.
Yeah, I think it's just like all the well of emotion coming out.
Like, did that doctor end up hooking her up with some stuff? Because she's kind of going wild right now.
Like, "These are the pills for your son, so we won't talk to her backpack." And she's like, "I'm just going to crush these in the bathroom and take them into school."
Oh, it's funny because she's still in the Superwoman costume.
Yeah.
You think this would be like a good thing for the car lot? Like, "Come buy a car from Supercar."
From Supercar?
Yeah, I imagine that's her superhero name. Like a Transformer, she turns into like an 87 Dodge or something.
Through all like Frankie's manicness, this is when the customer's like, "Are you okay? You seem a little stressed." It's like, no, I'm fine. I'm perfect. It's like, "Oh, where was I?" And she's like going to explain more stuff about the car. And then, yeah, so the customer's going like, "Are you all right?" She's like, "I'm a mom too. Like, I know it's tough to balance work and kids. Like, I've got 3. And then that's when Frankie's like, "I've got 3 too." And she's like, "Isn't it hard?" It's like, "It's really hard." And she's like crying. She's like, "I'm just, so stressed out. And like, I feel like I can't do anything right." And the customer's like, "Oh, I know. Like some days I swear, I just feel like getting in a car and driving and never coming back. Do you ever feel like that?" She's like, "Only every day."
So it was at this point that I figured out the beginning of the episode before it happened. I remember how the episode started, and I'm like, okay, she's being way too nice to her. And now she said that. This is how she gets abandoned at the beginning in the middle of nowhere.
This is kind of a weird spot, right? Because now am I to believe that? So now we see the two of them like in the car that like they had been looking at, and now they're like just driving down, like just escaping life. So was Frankie about to leave her whole family and just like start a new life on the road with this woman?
Oh, they were just driving around being wild ladies. Like,
that's not the vibe I got though. It's because like the last thing is like, you ever just think about like driving and not coming back?
Yeah, that seems more like Thelma and Louise. Like eventually they're going to drive off the edge of a canyon.
Because literally the last thing that was said before they did this is, "You ever think about driving off and never coming back?" So I'm like, So is she leaving her family behind? Like after all this, like that's not painting her in the right light.
You know, it would have been a funny addition. It's when she drove off, Brick was still in the back seat because they had to pick him up from school again.
So like they're driving down and they're all like woo and free. And then you get you hear like a noise and the customer Gail was like, "Ah, damn it." And she's like, "Oh, I'll check it out for you." So Frankie gets out of the car and she like goes to like look under to see like what might have been caught in the wheel or whatever. And then you just have that woman drive off on her and like leave her in the middle of nowhere, which like kind of fucked up.
Also, was this like a fortuitous thing? Because like you hear them hit something.
No, they went over a pothole. They show it.
Oh, it sounded like, yeah, I was trying to say, it sounded like something did happen, but maybe just not as extreme as we realized, or it was all clear when they were done.
But I guess other than that, they would have gone to like stop somewhere to get gas or like food, and she would have driven off. That would be the plan, I guess.
You're gonna lead her into that cornfield and shoot her.
Ooh.
That would have been a real tragic way to end the episode.
Show only went one episode.
Negative 214 episodes.
Turns out, yeah, it was never supposed to be 215 episodes. It was supposed to be like an indie flick. Like,
Yeah, it turns into like In Cold Blood all of a sudden. It's narrated by Truman Capote.
Originally called Diary of a Middle-Aged Mom.
This woman drives off now without her. She's stuck in the road. The way that they shoot this road, it looks like it could have been like she could have left her for dead for all you knew, because it looks like there's nothing anywhere in sight.
We left out that she says, "I have 3 kids," because I do too. They're all in prison. So this is planned. She's a criminal.
That's tough though. You have 3. She's like Mama Fratelli.
Yeah.
She screams, "You don't have a cousin Larry," and drives off into the corn.
It's wet, isn't it?
You get like that time lapse and you just see her still like walking through like this long, like, nothing road.
This is a great shot too, because you like see the sun going down. So like you get like a good time perspective.
And you spot like like a slightly mushy, like, what is it, Little Betty's cake?
I think a little Betty.
And she like goes and she like gets to her knees and she just starts like fucking inhaling this thing and shoving it down her throat.
Like she hasn't eaten in 3 days. She's been out for like, I don't know, at max 6 hours.
Catches like, the attention of some, but then the her family just drives by.
Well, they're out looking for her because we assume she got service at some point.
Yeah, she climbs a telephone pole at one point, and at one point she says, "Oh, I got bars," but she brings her hand down and she loses it.
And the fact that, like, again, in my mind, she was about to abandon the family, and then for them to go get her and be like, "Oh, you."
No, I think you're reading that wrong. I think it was driving around in a convertible, living that free life. It wasn't
like an afternoon of freedom.
I mean, I don't know. It's just the last thing they were talking about was running away forever. So it was like,
you're taking that way too literal.
I think you're thinking of the customer thinking that, and that's what she does. But she doesn't want to take Frankie with her.
But I think Frankie was under the impression that that's what she was doing at this point, is what I'm saying. But I mean, whatever. I mean, everyone's going to interpret it their own way, and I don't think anyone's ever going to think about this.
They're going on a test drive. That's what they do.
So when the family pulls up, and now you have like Mike, and he's like, "Come on, get in the car." You have the thing where she goes up to the door, and he pulls up a little bit, and not very fast for a superhero. And,
I think he should have just done it the one time and used the not very fast superhero, and then let her in the car. I feel like the 2 other times didn't work when he uses the line.
Yeah.
No, you got to do it at least twice, and then the last time back up and hit them with the door.
Open the door up and hit them. Like Martin Lawrence in a comedy cop movie. Like, why would you do that?
But they have the nice little family moment after, and we're all sitting there and like, "Oh, Mom, we made dinner just the way you like, just the way you make it." And they, they hand her some fast food. They're all telling their mom how much they love her. And then she looks over at Mike and she's like, "Hey, how come you never tell me that you love me?" And he said, "I told you I loved you the day I married you. If anything changed, I'd let you know."
It's like sweet and fucked up at the same time.
It was like,
yeah.
It's like
I don't know how to feel about it.
Is that a super sweet line? I think it is, but it's also not. Like, you got one out of me. I'll update you.
Also, fuck this family for eating nothing but fast food, and none of them are fat.
Right? They're all like lean. Yeah. I'm so perpetually afraid that I'm going to get like exploded every day that I tell everybody I love them. We get off the chat all the time, like, "Love you guys, see you later." Because like I don't want it to be like if I exploded tomorrow, or like I get like terrorist attacked or something that you wouldn't know. I think it's weird to not tell your wife you don't love her for 15 years or whatever.
Yeah, all them damn suicide bomber mooses you have to deal with.
Look, they charge. You gotta be careful.
And then it just kind of closes up with a little bit of narration. And she's saying, back then on the old license, I didn't know what my life was going to be. And Mike's right. Now I know this is it. This is my life. And, I'm not going to be on People magazine or anything, but you know what? I got it good. And, you see them kind of ending with just a little bit more of that dialogue where they find out they have another meeting, and so ends the episode.
I thought a nice touch, too, as they drive off into the sun, you see a plane fly over.
And Playing the Middle by Jimmy Eat World.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a song I hadn't heard in 20 years.
That's probably one of the, like, a song that were like, can we get that for the intro? They're like, yeah, it'll cost this much. I go, can we just use it on an episode?
But it seems like they got the good deal because we watched a syndicated version of it and it was in there. So it seems like they got it in perpetuity.
Yeah, that was it. Not a lot of other info I had on the show, to be honest with you. I tried reading up on it a little bit before we got started, but I honestly just didn't see much for a show that lasted as long as it did, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, but I just think it's so crazy that, like, this show was on for so long. It also is like a really weird, spotty syndication history where it was like, it was on HBO Max, then it was off, then it was on IMDb, then it was off. It's like, this seems like a show that would be perpetually playing somewhere.
Well, now it's findable on Peacock. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Oh, interesting, because it's like an ABC property. I would have thought, like, it'd be on Disney Plus or something, or Hulu.
Rights are so fucking weird now that, like, who even knows? The one thing we didn't mention that I do want to mention that I thought was a very funny scene is when she's feeling sad about herself for being old. She just cuts to herself in a mirror with a brown Crayola marker drawing in her gray roots, which was like such a great throwaway scene that just gets like totally washed over.
Not much else to say, so we might as well just do the green light or cancel. I want to remind everyone Nick's not here, so in the event of a tie, he will be the tiebreaker. And you will see that post with all of our scorings on our Instagram, X, all that, S1E1 pod. Find the links at S1E1pod.com. So to do the green letter cancel, Joe, starting with you.
I think this is a show that works better I think it would have worked for us if we were in high school and works for us better now that we're older. I think the idea of being like shiny and young and then being 40 is like way more understandable now. You know what I mean? So although we're in a very different situation than all of them, this sort of rang true in a weird way. I definitely get the comparisons to Malcolm in the Middle. We talked about it earlier. I think if they just called it Flyover State or something else, it probably would have done a lot better. But it doesn't happen all the time. But a show we watch, I'm like, we should just watch that. Like, this should be the next thing that we binge while we're doing garbage or whatever. And this is one of those. So just on that alone, if I'm willing to watch 200 fucking episodes of it, I'll give it a green light.
Gordo.
This is a great show. I mean, every character is great. I think the name doesn't strike me as a comparison to Malcolm in the Middle. It's just more the family dynamics. But with that being said, I really liked Malcolm in the Middle, and I also really like The Middle. So I'm going to give it the green light. And I may try and retrieve what my Hulu password is and watch it. Because you said it's streaming on that, right?
At Peacock.
Peacock, I believe.
Well, I'll have to figure out what that password is too. So, green light.
Berg.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the boys. I like this show. I like those middle America, low income family sitcoms, the Roseannes, the Malcolm in the Middles, the Married with Children's, the Roseannes. And this fits with all those. We're so used to these sitcoms where they live in New York with apartments that are way too big that they shouldn't be able to afford, and everything's going good. The show's got a great cast. I love the janitor from Scrubs, and I'm glad to see him in something else. I'm shocked that this show went as many seasons as it did, because you don't really see anyone bring up The Middle very often. Like Joe, knowing that this is on Peacock, I'm probably going to throw this on knowing that I have a lot of content to watch and binge. So, green light from me.
So, I am going to rock the boat a little bit, and I'm canceling this one. I don't think the show is terrible by any means, but I was just a little bored by it. And I didn't think there was really enough that really stood out to me as like that made the show feel special, like that I really want to keep watching it. I think the cast, at least the casting of the parents, is pretty good. the kids' characters, there was no like kid that I like really liked that much in it. The daughter a little bit when you see like her like be like legitimately excited to be part of something, and like I felt like that was a little bit relatable.
But Brick does do a very J-Gags move where he pulls his pants down before he walks into the bathroom. I thought you'd be all in just on that alone.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess I missed that scene.
Yeah, when they were talking about him being weird.
Yeah, like the clinically quirky scene. He goes in front of the bathroom, pulls his pants down, and then walks into the bathroom.
Hey, well, even with that in mind, I don't know. It's just like, see, I don't hate it. It just it didn't really like grab me. You know what I mean? It was like it was fine. It was just fine. I don't know. It just I was getting a little bored with it, and that's it. I mean, it was nothing terrible. It's okay, but you know, as far as I go, it's gonna have to be a cancel. But doesn't matter because that's only 1 out of the 4. Even without Nick's score, even if Nick sides with me, it's still going to be a green light. So congratulations to the middle. You do live on to see a second episode with us. I want to thank all of you guys who listened. Again, S1E1pod.com is where you can find all the links to all our shit. Follow us on our socials. Hit us up. You're definitely going to get the most timely responses from us if you hit us on like Instagram or X. But wherever, we'll get in touch with you. So it's nice to talk. So just keep messaging us. Let us know shows you want us to cover, things like that. Say hi, whatever it is. You know, it's super joy to talk to you guys. But that's it. That's all the time we have for this week. So catch you again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Brian Doyle-Murray.